welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rebecca Berger. This is Justice for All, where you get to hear from legal professionals in the surrounding area. We have a really amazing guest tonight, Jeffrey Miller from Pillinger Miller Tarallo. Jeff, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having us, Rebecca. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here tonight. So you really handle civil cases from the defense perspective at this time, correct?
Correct.
And what type of cases do you normally handle?
We're a full-service defense litigation firm. We are a regional firm with offices that cover the full state of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. We cover everything from asbestos to workers' compensation and everything in between. But we specialize in construction litigation, coverage, a lot of bar, tavern, restaurant, habitational, environmental, professional liability, auto trucking, all civil tort, general liability litigation. But we take it very seriously, and we become experts in truly getting these cases settled and leading our colleagues in moving these cases towards resolution.
And it seems like your firm itself, you're really speaking out about this issue because you're so passionate about it. You have really been speaking out and, publishing articles to try to help others do the same thing to get these cases, off the dockets for the courts. Because again, these are people's lives. Things are happening. People's lives haven't necessarily stopped, and this is a way to help them actually move on with their life. And the only way sometimes they can do that is with these settlements.
Absolutely. That's a real important part of this business that a lot of people lose sight of, that it's not just another case. Mm-hmm. For the injured plaintiff, a lot of times it's something that has an effect on their life, and sometimes, unfortunately, a significant effect. And until that case is resolved, they're embroidered in that litigation, and it's very difficult. And until that's settled, a lot of times, that's almost like a sort of Damocles for them. By the same token, on the defense side, our clients have loss runs and pending litigations and renewals of policies that they need to move on with, and they want to close the cases. Mm-hmm. So it's real important. It's not just some case on somebody else's docket. It's two litigants or more, depending upon the size of the litigation, that are involved in a life-altering situation, usually, that they want to resolve.
Well, and I think the perception, and probably a misperception, is that you're on the defense side. So you're representing maybe the insurance company or these businesses whom would be responsible for that liability or whatever payment may be necessary to make that person whole or to pay for lost wages or what have you. But it's not that you're not taking into account who that person is and who that plaintiff is in your calculation and the loss they've suffered.
Thanks. You'd be surprised, because if you really go by, and there's not a lot of television ads on that side, on both sides of this equation, but our defense clients, and it's not just insurance companies, because there's so much skin in the game, and it affects their premiums. And these clients have large deductibles and self-insured retentions, and we know the cost of litigation is so expensive. Where, for instance, we do construction litigation, and there is a very strict liability statute in New York, New York labor law involving absolute liability. Mm-hmm. And because of that, these costs, litigation in these cases and the awards are so significant that a third of the cost to build the Tappan Zee Bridge was insurance costs. Which, you got labor, material, that's a ridiculously obscene number, and that's because of how expensive litigation can be.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think that people necessarily recognize sometimes that money has to go back into something else the company's doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what is kind of the position your firm takes in terms of some of these injuries that people are suffering? Like, say, in the construction realm.
When we get these, us with our clients are looking for a quick, amicable, early resolution. And that's what we're doing. And if somebody's responsible for somebody else's injuries, these clients are looking to fairly compensate and settle those cases as quickly and cost effectively as they can, and taking into account the liability portion of this as well as the damages. And our firm, something that we specialize in and we take great pride in, is every day at 3 o'clock we have what's called the round table. We have a round table every day at 3. I'm permitting, everybody's schedules, but we have senior partners, trial attorneys, handling attorney. Every case from a $15 case to a $150 million case goes through this roundtable process, and all of these heads are put together and cases presented, and we give an opinion on what we think a fair settlement value is of the case and what potential jury exposure is on this case. And we take that very importantly, and I think our clients use that to their ability to gauge their exposure on these cases and assist in these prompt resolutions.
It seems to me you take a more of a personal view of this in the sense that you recognize, like, look, you do come from the defense perspective, but things happen. Things happen and injuries occur. There is no magic formula. There's no magic scale there's no chart that says, okay, if you lose an arm, it's worth X amount of money. But it sounds like you, as a firm, sit together and try to figure out, let's look at the liability, let's look at the medicals.
Absolutely, and you're right. You're right, Rebecca. There is no formula. And I interned for a judge who was a great man, Judge Michael Donson in New York. He was counsel to Mayor Lindsay. That's how old this gentleman was, and great judge. And he used to say, "Do you want to settle this case?" He was a big settler, big proponent. He's one of the first mediators at JAMS a million years ago. And he said, "Do you want to settle this case, or do you want 6 people in the box who know nothing about this business deciding what this case is worth?" And it resonated. And it was a point in time that we realized that these cases are important. They're people's lives, and you have to move them along. And from the smaller injury to the larger injury, we've really taken it to a point where on every case we spend a lot of time, and it's a value added that our firm does, and we analyze the liability, the damages. Many times there's strategy that comes out. Somebody will say, do a social media check. Hey, did you speak with this kind of an expert? And then we talk about what we think a settlement value is and what a verdict value is, and the exposure on these cases. And we value, the time we're spending doing this, and our clients really appreciate it because it's been super accurate. It really has.
Well, and I can't imagine, not everybody has the same opinion. It's almost like a mini jury to some extent, obviously with some legal training, but, saying to yourself, honestly, I'm hearing this case for the first time. This is my perspective on that.
It's so true. And we try to break it up within the firm as to what type of people, but we use, there's usually over 150 collaborative years of experience in that room. And for instance, the other day we did a horrific injury case, unfortunately a bad construction accident. And there were 7 of us in the room, and we ended up telling the carrier we thought the settlement value was $17.5 million. And of the people in the room, there wasn't even that large of a spread what people thought, and everybody's individually, and they write it down so they don't get tainted what the other people said. And these numbers have really proven over time to be very reliable. They really have, and we bank on that.
Well, it's kind of interesting because it's almost like a mini focus group to some extent. You're hearing these facts. Do you ever use focus groups sometimes?
That's interesting. On some of the larger cases that call for it, we've dealt with those focus groups and mock trials and jury consultants on the larger cases that call for it, and we have found it very effective.
So what would you say, in your experience, have been some of the cases that have made some of the biggest impact in what you do?
Sure. I would say we've represented a number of volunteer fire departments and fire districts. And early on in my career, my now founding partner, Mark Pillinger, came back from a day in the office in the city and said to me, I'm going home now. And he was always such a happy person. I was like, what's the matter? It's like, I just did a terrible children's deposition. And he was so shooken up, and, we're a defense counsel, but he was so shooken up by this poor children's, trauma that he needed to leave. And I remember doing my first child case where it was such a hard balance in making sure you're properly representing the interests of your client while treating somebody who's been horrifically injured, and making sure that you're doing it in a purely proper way.
Which I think can be that delicate balance, because you have a client to represent at the same time being sensitive to that subject matter at the same time.
Absolutely.
What would you say was some of the highlights of your career so far?
Wow. We have a large bar restaurant tavern program that we love, and of course frequenting all of our clients' establishments to make sure that everything was proper and safe. But
yeah, I mean, well, that someone's got to do that. Someone's got to, that's an important job.
We had made appellate law for Peter Luger on a bar, tavern, restaurant case that we were very proud of, that gets cited constantly in a lot of New York litigation, and the firm was very happy with that. And I'd say my partners and I left our firm 19 years ago, and slow and steady, we're now a regional firm with 91 lawyers.
Wow.
And feel that we're big enough yet small enough, big enough to handle anything yet small enough to give you that personal attention that we really thrive about.
So when you have a client come in to you and say, hey, we want you to be our defense counsel, what are some of the tips that you normally give them? What are some of the things that you, over time, tell these clients?
Sure. You know what? Our most successful clients who listen to us, and of course all of our clients listen to us.
Of course. I mean, why
not? Have really taken safety as a priority, whether they're construction, general contractors or developers or subcontractors or bar, tavern, restaurant owners or environmental, professionals, whatever it is. The safety and the training, I really believe in the last decade has taken a step up, and we've assisted our clients with that, which is important. And in a lot of these cases, another important aspect is risk transfer. Under the law, who's going to really be left holding the bag? The contract, is somebody additionally insuring somebody? Is somebody supposed to indemnify somebody? And the proper contracts and risk transfer have been very important in this, recent years as well.
So in some of these cases, I mean, I can't imagine they're not specialized, like construction cases. So how do you familiarize yourself with some of their practices or some of the things that they do? Do you actually go out there maybe on the job sites to try to understand things? What is it that you do to personalize that, to really understand it?
Sure. Great question. The firm has created teams and groups within the firm, and we have the construction team and we have the trucking team. And these different groups have specialized and teamed with the clients and brokers and the training people on these programs. And we have emergency response teams, for instance, that go down to an accident site when something happens. So early on, they're doing early investigation, they're gathering what they need. So they're doing early risk assessment as well as hopefully risk prevention as to the best of their abilities, and then proactive resolution, strategies. And it's worked.
And it sounds like your firm just takes a very proactive, you know, way of handling pretty much the case from start to finish. Is really trying to get these cases settled.
Absolutely. We've really taken it as a focus and priority, and we've, led our colleagues towards this resolution practice, and it's just been tremendous. The amount of calls that we've been getting for, hey, I heard you did a mediation day, and we're just really that's how we settled, over 1,300 cases in this year. It's a really staggering number, and it's not been small cases or big. It's been everything from small to big cases, multi-party, one-on-ones. It's been very, very productive.
So if someone wanted to retain your services, how would they get a hold of you?
Terrific. They can always email me at jmiller, M-I-L-L-E-R, at P as in Peter, M as in Mary, T as in Tom, lawfirm.com, or main phone number, 914-703-6300.
Jeff, it has been a pleasure to speak to you, and it's so refreshing to hear, a firm so, really dedicated to moving through these cases.
Thanks so much for having us. Truly.
Thank you. This is Justice for All. I'm Rebecca Berger, and we'll see you back next week.